Good morning, 7th grade. This is Mr. Woolley. And remember, the information contained in this video is intended to be viewed only by the students in Mr. Woolley's classroom. By watching the video, you agree that you will not record or share the video with anyone who is not a student in Mr. Woolley's classroom. All right, here we go with lesson 22, solving equations using algebra. So one of the things we focus as we solve through equations is like you work with opposite or inverse type of operations as we try to get rid of things in the equation to get it ready to solve. And of course, we have to make sure we are following a process on these multi-step equations. All right, example 1, Yoshiro's new puppy. Yoshiro has a new puppy. She decides to create an enclosure for her puppy in her backyard. The enclosure is in the shape of a hexagon, a six-sided polygon, with one pair of opposite sides running the same distance along the length of two parallel flower beds. There are two boundaries at one end of the flower beds that are 10 foot and 12 foot respectively, and at the other end the boundaries are 15 foot and 20 foot respectively. If the perimeter of the enclosure is 137 feet, what's the length of each side that runs along the flower bed? Well, it's a hexagon, so I only have 6 sides. I got these two parallel sides that I don't know exactly what they are, so I'm going to call them L for lengths right now. But being a hexagon, it's got to have 6 sides, so it's not going to form a rectangular type of pen. It's 15 here and 20 here on one end, and the other end had 10 and 12. So kind of a rough sketch of what that looks like. Now together, the entire perimeter, the distance around, is going to be 137 feet. So if I look at all my pieces, I have L and L, then I have a 10, a 12, a 15, and a 20. All together should add up to 137. So I combine my like terms. There's 2 of the L's, so I call it 2L. And then all the regular numbers add up to 57. So equals 137. Now I begin my normal two-step equation process where I get rid of my regular adding and subtracting of numbers. So I can get rid of a plus 57 by minus 57, minus 57 on both sides. And then I'm left with 2L equals 80. And then instead of times them by 2, the opposite of that is to divide by 2 on each side. Divided by 2, I'm left with L equals 40. So each length is going to be 40 feet. All right, next up. Example 2, swim practice. Jenny's on the local swim team for the summer and has swim practice 4 days a week. The schedule is the same each day. The team swims in the morning and then again for 2 hours in the evening. If she swims 12 hours per week, so there's my total, and how long does she swim in the morning? Now 4 days she does the exact same thing. She swims in the morning and then for 2 hours in the evening. We don't know how long in the morning yet, but the grand total is going to be 12 for the week. So now I could distribute and get 4m plus 8, or if I didn't want to distribute, I could just start dividing by 4 right away also. So either way, you can see you're going to end up with the same process. So if I do distribute, I get 4m plus 8 equals 12, get rid of the plus 8 by minus 8, minus 8. I'm left with 4m equals 4, and then get rid of a times 4 by dividing by 4 on each side, and m is equal to 1. If I did it the other way here, if I would have divided by 4 right away, then I'm breaking it down to like really 1 day a week. She's going to work out for 3 hours swimming. So get rid of the plus 2, get rid of by minusing 2 from each side, and you're left with m equals 1. So either way, we know that she swims 1 hour each morning. All right, now just some basic ones here that we're solving. Get rid of the plus 4 by subtracting 4 from each side. You get 5x equals 15. Divide each side by 5, or x equals 3. This one's a little different because you're going to have the fractional answer. We'll talk about that in just a second. But get rid of your plus 14 by minus 14 from each side. You're left with 15x equals 5. And divide by 15 on each side. You're left with just x here. 5 divided by 15 is like not a good number in your calculator. It's 0.3 repeating. We try to avoid using decimals and repeating decimals when we're solving equations. So you might have to actually just leave it as like 5/15 is like a 1/3 kind of scenario. Hopefully you recognize that 0.33 repeating is 1/3. All right, back to another word problem. Claire's mom found a very good price on a large computer monitor. She paid $325 for a monitor that was only $65 more than half the original price. What was the original price? I don't know the original price, so I'm going to call it P. But I do know that they did pay $325 for the monitor, so that's currently my total. So half of the original price, so half times P, plus 65, because remember, it's only $65 more than half the original price. So whatever half the original price was, you need 65 more than that, so you have to add 65. So really, 1/2 times P plus 65 equals 325. A little tougher one to think about building, for sure. All right, so get rid of the plus 65 by minus 65 on each side. You're left with 1/2 P equals 260. And you want to divide by a half because you don't want to times by a half anymore. So divide by half, it clears out this side with just p. But remember, 260 divided by a half. If we're dividing in fractions, they both need to be fractions. So I put 260 over 1 divided by 1/2. And once they're both fractions, I can do my favorite little phrase of math, keep, change, flip. So keep it, change the times, and I flip it to 2 over 1. I get 520 over 1, or just 520. So the original price was $520. All right, another one here with distributed property scenarios. You could distribute if you want, or divide right away. I'm not going to explain this one. You guys can kind of see for yourself. Pause the video, but X should be 5. You should be getting good at those by now. All right, next up. This one's a little tougher one, too, to set up. It says, Ben's family left for vacation after his dad came home from work on Friday. The entire trip was 600 miles. Dad was very tired after working a long day and decided to stop and spend the night in a hotel after 4 hours of driving. The next morning, Dad drove the remainder of the trip. If the average speed of the car was 60 miles per hour, what was the remaining time left to drive in the second part of the trip? Remember, distance equals rate multiplied by time. Well, we know that they're going 60 miles per hour, and they already drove for 4 hours. So one of the things you have to kind of do before you even start the equation is realize that they've already driven 240 of the miles, okay? Now, 60 miles times however many hours they got left, so 60 times h plus that 240 they've already driven, is how we get to that total of 600. So let's get what we've already driven out of there. Get the 240, subtract from both sides. If it's 60 miles per hour times how many hours we're going to drive for equals 360. And get rid of the times 60 by divide by 60 on each side. And if with h equals 6. So there's actually 6 hours left to drive. Now, that's where the Eureka math stops, but I did provide you with a couple more examples that you're going to see on your homework in just a little bit. Some hints about rearranging these. On example 6 here, I got 14 minus 2g equals 2. And my hint for you is to rearrange this. I don't like having the letter, the variable, like at the end of the equation. I want it out in the front. So what I'm going to do is this minus 2g, I'm going to treat it like a negative 2g and stick it out front. And this 14 was just a positive 14. It was just a nice little positive 14. I'm going to put a plus 14. So really that minus 2g or negative 2g I'm going to treat it as. Plus 14 equals 2. Get rid of the plus 14 by minus 14 from each side, and you're left with negative 2g equals negative 12. Divided by a negative 2, don't forget, if you're times by negative 2, the opposite, that's dividing by a negative 2. And that clears out the g. You're left with just a negative divided by a negative, which is a positive answer, and 12 divided by 2 is 6. So g is equal to 6. And one more that I threw in here for you is when it's on the right-hand side for your variable. If you have 5 equals 2n minus 1, rearrange it. Put this chunk, the 2n minus 1, out in the front, because we're used to solving on the left side. So just put 2n minus 1 in the front and then the 5 in the back. It doesn't matter. This side's equal to this side no matter what anyways. To get rid of the plus and minus 1 by adding 1 each side, you got 2n equals 6 divided by 2, and you get n equals 3. So there was 2 problems right there that I think would be helpful if you went ahead and rearranged on each of those. So, all right, good luck on your homework in Schoology. Thanks for watching.